Playground hosts yet another major sporting event, the Bud Light Mammoth Cycling Classic. This unique cycling event, awarding over $40,000 in cash and prizes, blends both road racing and mountain bike action. In just its second year, it features some of the nation's top teams and riders. The Bud Light Mammoth Cycling Classic has two main events. The Whiskey Creek Stage Race, sanctioned by the U.S. Cycling Federation, is a six-stage road race open to all competitors. This national prestige classic is one stop on the 7-Eleven Cup Series. The Mammoth Mountain Kamikaze is a NORBA-sanctioned three-stage event, also open to all categories. World-class road racing and mountain bike competition, the Bud Light Mammoth Cycling Classic, 1986.
Go!
As in most stage races, the first stage at Mammoth was a short time trial. Time trials kick off the general classification scoring while allowing riders a chance to size up the competition. The prologue should have been a quick, easy 1-mile sprint. Instead, cyclists bucked a steady 40-mile-an-hour headwind up the steep 350-foot climb. At over 8,000 feet, the thin mountain air added to their struggle on this first morning of competition. At the top, it was Olympic gold medalist and local GS Shark team ringer Steve Haig winning his first race of the year. In the women's division, Olympic silver medalist Rebecca Twigg got a big jump in the general classification as she hammered straight through to the finish. After the time trial, racers lined up in the Minaret Village parking lot for an afternoon criterium. Criteriums are tight cornering, medium distance races usually conducted on city streets or parking lots. Team tactics such as lead-outs, blocking, and pulling are especially important in these multi-lap high-speed races. Crowd participation is also integral to criteriums, with spectators and local businesses offering premiums or preems for winners of individual laps. A generous community can influence team tactics by enticing individual cyclists to sprint for lucrative preems. Oftentimes, an aggressive preem hunter can actually win more money in prizes than the stage winner's purse.
The moment of truth has arrived. Racers, everybody pay attention right now. Tom Hillard's up here to explain the rules of the event. The Observed Trials Mammoth Mountain Kamikaze is about to get underway. Of course, this event is sponsored by Bud Light and our friends at Minaret Village.
Before we get into the rules of Observed Trials, let's take a quick overview of mountain bikes and off-road cyclists. In the mid-70s, Gary Fisher and Tom Ritchie started pushing the limits of their one-speed beach cruisers. Bombing down the muddy mountain trails of the Coast Range north of San Francisco, they began altering their cruisers with the multiple gearing and caliper brakes of road bikes. News of these hybrid all-terrain mountain bikes spread to the Sierra, the Rockies, and New England. In the Sierra, a few individuals like these two pioneers discovered and established an off-road cyclist mecca. Mountain bike competition evolved directly out of the challenges encountered by off-road cyclists on every ride. The mountain bikers' training grounds of backcountry trails and abandoned mining roads are filled with obstacles and pitfalls. While the roadies' nightmares are filled with visions of drainage grates and potholes, mountain bikers dream of bombing rocky hillsides, hopping rotten logs, and splashing through mountain streams. The three established categories of off-road competitions, cross-country, downhill, and observed trials, were created to test cyclists' ability to master these natural challenges. The strangest of the three disciplines is undoubtedly the observed trials. While most trials courses are designed around existing boulders and trees, the Mammoth trials put a whole new twist on the concept of natural obstacles. By carefully placing boulders, logs, rounds, and even a gondola car on the manicured front lawn of the Mammoth Mountain Inn, course designer Tom Hilliard created a kind of circus on the beach atmosphere. The 8 challenging sections tightly wove in, over, and around a rushing mountain stream that seemed to have been designed with the trials event in mind. The most unique aspect of the Mammoth Mountain Trials, however, was the unobstructed visibility. The resulting enthusiastic spectator involvement added a whole new dimension to trials competition. With most competitors fighting for the world's first ever 3-event off-road championship, many cyclists found themselves seriously evaluating a trials course for the first time. Unlike the relatively normal endurance specialists who would prefer not to scrape their pedals and multi-geared chain rings over the granite boulders, there is a separate basket of peculiar cases who pride themselves in being professional trials specialists. The leaders of this fringe element ride ridiculously overpriced, custom-built kryptonite Einsteinium alloy mini-cycles that enable them to apparently defy gravity and common sense. While the general classification riders concentrated on a standard trials course, a mind-boggling open classification course was set for these single-event professionals. Let's follow a few of these open competitors through the course and briefly examine the rules and techniques of trials competition. Here we see 14-year-old Andy Grayson, a top trials professional, easily negotiate the first section. Notice how the open section he rides proceeds directly over the most difficult line. Next, a general classification rider attempts the easier GC course on a standard mountain bike. Unfortunately, he put his foot down for one dab. Successful scores of 3, 2, 1, or 0 are possible. Even if you dab more than 3 times, 3 is the maximum score for a completed section. Section 2 is a more difficult boulder problem and requires scouting. Here a professional, David Arbogast, reveals his trials expertise by correctly identifying an obstacle.
Oh my gosh, it's a rock!
As our expert attempts the section, he must stay between the 2 ribbons. The red ribbon marks the right boundary, the blue marks the left. In this case, the easier GC section is to the left of the blue ribbon. Oops, that one's a dab. In fact, a tough judge would call it a track stand or a complete stop and award a failure worth 5 points. In the next section, everyone must cross a stream, a common backcountry problem. Most choose to ride across the log. But as the log becomes wetter with each set of tires, novices get the opportunity to display their expertise at dismounting and attacking photographers. Some try avoiding the slippery log, but only get wet and 5 points for the trouble. There's always one guy who defines the term state-of-the-art. Here we see undefeated U.S. trials champion Kevin Norton wheel his experimental 20-inch trials bike over the wet log. Next year, to make it fair for the other guys, Kevin will wear a straitjacket and carry a set of golf clubs. Everyone has to cross the stream again in Section 4. This time, there isn't a convenient log, however, and the pros spend several minutes carefully scouting their route down the deep, rocky stream bed. Now Kevin demonstrates the disadvantage of 20-inch wheels as he soaks both feet despite his perfect backpedaling technique. But you're not scored for getting wet, and Norton conquers the difficult section with just one dab. The GC competitors, on the other hand, would probably prefer being scored on a splash meter. That's a 2, maybe. Ooh, there's an 8. Section 6 is the highlight of the competition. Gondola cars are not often found lying around on the forest floor, so few riders have experienced riding over one. But after careful analysis, mountain biking's fringe element is ready to try anything.
Crazier than last year. You got to be absolutely nuts to do this race anyway. And we've got a lot of certified lunatics, bicycles, and a lot more. Of course, Bud Light bases. having free tastings of Asante water. We've got Eagle snacks there and other good promotional items. We've got, I'm serious, there's everything in that expo. So be sure that if you want to get out of the sun, that's the place to go. It's the Bike Expo tent. Check out all the neat stuff under the sun for bicycle riding. Look it up on the gondola right now. We've got a real crowd pleaser. Oh my goodness, look at this, hopping right on off the gondola. This is going to be something you want to check out, folks. Here it is. We're looking for the setup right here. This guy's going to jump off, and we're going to see what happens. Whoa, there he is. Almost pulls it off. Folks, a big round of applause. Let's come alive.
I'm still alive.
What a crowd pleaser this is today, folks.
After the adrenaline rush of the gondola ride, the rest of the course seemed like a party. And by lunchtime, the atmosphere on the lawn was like no other observed trials ever held. In sharp contrast to Stage 2's race in a parking lot, was a spectacular yet brutal 90-mile roller coaster ride known appropriately as the Tour Beneath the Peaks. Starting 27 miles north of Mammoth, near Mono Lake, riders made their way through Pumice Valley, up the Corkscrew Hill climb to Sagehand Summit, down North Canyon and across the rolling Adobe Valley floor to the turnaround in the high desert town of Benton. With a total elevation gain of 4,500 feet plus gusty winds, this stage proved to be one of the toughest. And second place Tom Pren broke away from the lead pack at the top of the final fast descent towards Mono Lake. Women's winner Rebecca Twigg, demonstrating her dominance, put more than 3 minutes on the pack. Starting and finishing at 9,000 feet in front of the Mammoth Mountain Inn, Stage 2, the cross-country, pitted the rider's strength, endurance, and skill against the rugged terrain of the Inyo National Forest. With equal emphasis on equipment reliability, the 44-mile course and the 2,000-foot vertical gain proved to be a formidable adversary. Pumice flats, streams, eroded hill climbs, fast tree-lined descents, and the long, slow climbs to the scenic High Sierra provided much of the fun. Theobald, having recently lost his Team Fisher sponsorship, let his riding do the talking and placed first in this true test of mountain bike prowess. Cindy Whitehead, the only known rider to make a costly wrong turn, came in just seconds behind winner Jackie Phelan. By the third day of competition, most stage riders were acclimated to Mammoth's 8,000-foot elevation. The Altitude 9000 road race, however, also attracted hundreds of weekend racers to the relatively thick air of the deep Owens Valley. At 4,200 feet, Bishop, California lies 2 miles below nearby peaks of the Sierra Nevada and White Mountain ranges. From the start in the city park, cyclists were to race 50 miles and climb 5,000 vertical feet to the Mammoth Mountain Inn. Outside the Bishop city limits, Category 1s and 2s drafted along Highway 395. Several hundred yards ahead, Dan Packman, the sole representative of the Muskegon Bicycle Club, had breakaway written all over him. Dan forced the pace for several miles, while a small chase group pulled the field through Round Valley. Gradually, the pace slowed as the pack climbed the 2,000-foot Sherwin grade. The bunch soon disintegrated, and the race became individuals against the hill. At the top of the grade, cool air and rolling terrain greeted the weary racers. Pace lines formed, and cyclists again worked together for 20 miles through Long Valley. Some individuals had to fight it alone as the 7 categories of racers intermixed. After climbing another 1,000 vertical feet, racers blasted through the town of Mammoth Lakes and attacked the final steep hill to the inn. 3 miles to the finish, Levi's Thurlow Rogers attacked, breaking away from the lead group. Hammering hard, Rogers kept an eye out for the quality group of chasers he knew were lurking somewhere behind him. They did, with Tom Resch of Montrose Sun Tour pulling Lowenbrau's Glenn Sanders. With 1.5 miles to go, the pair caught up to Rogers. For the next mile, sprinters jockeyed for position. One and then the other jumped to the lead. It was anybody's race. But it was Thurlow Rogers timing his jump perfectly in the last quarter mile, sprinting to the finish first and closing to within seconds of GC leader Norm Alvis.
Overall, wearing the leader's jersey today, the red and blue with white stripes from the Perlizumi Company, Norm Elvis, number 105, the GS Mangoni team. In second place, at only 17 seconds behind, from the Levi's team, Thurlow Rogers. At fourth place, number 39, the white jersey, the Montrose Cycling Sun Tour team, Tom Resch. Sixth, at the red, white, blue, the Schwinn Icy Hot team, the current national professional champion, Thomas Kren, with the red spots on his hat, easy to find in the field.
A circuit race is a combination road race and criterium. Each lap is roughly twice as long as a criterium, while total miles covered are similar to that of a road race. It was a perfect day to relax in the sun and cheer on the roadies as they raced up, down, and around the village. In the men's category 1s and 2s, Schwinn's Steve Speaks pulled Ron Heyman around the course and across the line far ahead of the large chase group led by Schwinn team member Tom Brosmowski.
And Ron Heyman just thankful for the cooperation.
Why do you do this? Well, I had a real bad drug problem as a child, and this is the only way that I can relive those times. Just here for the beer and the race is secondary, you know.
I'm waiting for Dave McCoy to show up.
I'm gonna go for it.
All right.
If their bikes had survived the log climbing and boulder jumping of the observed trials, and if the riders themselves had outlasted the dirt and exhaustion of the cross-country, the Kamikaze stage racers were given a final chance to demonstrate their versatility, spirit, and feeble-mindedness. Plummeting 2,000 feet over 4 miles of roughly pulverized volcanic rock, the Mammoth Mountain Kamikaze Downhill is one of the wildest bicycle races in the world. Stomachs knotted and teeth chattered as each of the 500 suicide pilots climbed onto the flight deck.
I want my mommy. Ready?
Just 7 seconds separated leader Norm Alvis from Olympic bronze medalist Thurlow Rogers. GC hopeful Glenn Sanders was only 30 seconds off the pace. Race promoters and spectators were delighted when the General Classification Championship came down to the 6th and final stage, the Whiskey Creek Criterium.
34 seconds down now. Seconds ahead. He's technically 17 seconds behind. And leader Thurlow Rogers with the lead of over 34 seconds on Norm Alvis.
This technical 0.6-mile course was designed with the spectator in mind. Beginning on Minaret Road at Pioneer Market, riders would sprint uphill on Lake Mary Road, turn right onto Miller Siding, and then veer left through the 180-degree Expo Sweeper to Canyon. Next came a sharp right through a narrow wooded section, and finally back on Minaret Road for a 40-foot elevation gain per lap.
And as you see the finish here of the women's cycling action.
Sullivan, the Winning Magazine Cycles Peugeot Loop team.
Thurlow Rogers clinched the GC victory early as leader Norm Alvis was penalized a lap after laying down his bike. At the finish line, race officials debated whether Alvis should have taken the free lap rule, and the racers themselves helped decide who the criterium's top finishers were.
2 lap 1. One. Okay, one is right. Okay, right. So I'm only 1 lap up on you, Carter, Farmer, Nickman, Thurlow, and Broad. Well, I was a little confused too. I knew I had won. I knew I was in the lead, and I knew I lapped everybody at least once, but the officials kept saying, like, Tom Brosnowski was the winner, and I kept trying to signal to them, look, you know, I'm number 1.
In the women's racing, Olympic silver medalist Rebecca Twigg dominated her challengers, posting 4 victories as she carried a huge lead into the final criterium. Don't forget the cycling action at Mammoth in 1987. First up is the 5-event Whiskey Creek Stage Race, July 22nd through 26th. The Mammoth Mountain Kamikaze, August 15th through 17th, with the all-new event, Dual Head-to-Head Challenge Racing. And the first ever international mountain bike competition, the 1987 Norba World Championships at Mammoth, August 21st through 23rd. Don't miss it.
Mammoth is great. I'd love to come here this winter and go skiing. I won a ski package yesterday, so I'll probably be up with my buddy Steve Haig.
It's real nice. People are so friendly. I haven't been honked at once.
I really like it a lot. Our entire team came up last year. We stayed for 3 weeks and really had a good time.
How many miles? I thank his crew and him for all this stuff that they're doing. They run a hell of a ski resort and they run a hell of a downhill race.
But it was 7-Eleven Cup races here, and I've been following that circuit. But I'm really glad that it came. It's a really challenging race.
All right, thanks a lot. I want to thank the whole Mammoth area. It's a great race, probably the best race we've had all year, and you know, we need more races like that, and it helps when the towns get into it. So thanks a lot.
Caught up in a firestorm.